Hey, coach, I understand it's never just like one thing, right? But if you were going to say, like, is there a common trend in terms of what you've seen in these first two games as to why things maybe aren't clicking for you guys yet offensively that you've seen?
Yeah, I think the common trend or thread is probably two. I mean, it's very obvious we're not finishing drives. You know, I think we moved the ball up and down the field pretty well the other night and got nothing hardly to show for. We got great field position, and we're not producing any results at the end, which is it's a result driven sport, business, life, world. I mean, doesn't matter if I think 8 of our 12 drives we passed the 40-yard line. And didn't score very many points. So we're not finishing drives. I think on a couple of those, I know we got a holding call on one that really hurt us. We got a pass interference, and there were good calls. I mean, they were the correct calls that really hurt us. 2 times we got around the 20-yard line. We didn't execute a play. One time, if we hand it off, I think Cam's probably going to walk in. Instead, we don't. And so it's probably a combination of some untimely, a pass interference or a holding. Those are hard hustle errors. I mean, it's not like a guy's jumping off sides or something. But those still were critical. And then we're not executing enough to finish the drives. We were more explosive the other night, but we're not getting explosive touchdowns. So we're having to sustain long drives and we're not finishing those drives. And so it can get obviously frustrating because you're not getting the results you need. And then one of them that was just really, really critical and really changed a lot of the course of the game was we score a touchdown on a 4th and 2 and it gets called back because we don't line up on the line of scrimmage. Those are things that are just uncalled for and unacceptable, and you can't have that.
I'm curious, how much do you like? It just seems like the run game maybe takes a little while to get going. How much is that having like a domino effect, maybe on, third and longs and finishing in the red zone, like you're saying, maybe even getting into your tempo more like you would? Is that fair to say, or would you push back on that?
No, I mean, I think, the run game being effective helps you score in the red zone and finish better. And did we run the ball terrible the other night? No. Should we be able to run it better? Yes. I think, we probably ran for right at 200 yards until we lost all those yards delaying things. But, De'Eric had a lot to do with that too. So at times we ran it really well, and at times we were really inconsistent. And that consistency needs to show up for us.
Coach, we're going to go next to Tim Reynolds from the Associated Press. Tim, go ahead.
Thanks, Cam. Hi, Rhett. I've got two things. First one is the pace between snaps. Is it where you want it to be?
I don't know. I feel like we played pretty quick at times. I thought we were playing pretty fast the other night. And like I said, we were moving the ball up and down on the field. We just weren't finishing drives. But I have not noticed it not being fast enough, other than, if we throw an incompletion, the pace is obviously going to slow down. If we run the ball and get a no gain, it's going to slow down. I mean, there's things that slow tempo down in general. The first half of our first game, we didn't have any pace or tempo because we didn't have any rhythm. We weren't doing anything. But in that third quarter, we played pretty fast. The other night, I think we played with some pretty good tempo. I think when we were starting the second half, we ran almost 50 plays at the beginning of the second half. Again, we just weren't finishing drives.
And the second thing is, Will's only got 5 catches for, I forget, 30 yards or 25 yards, something like that so far this year. I know it's not as easy as saying, okay, we got to get Will Mallory the ball more, but what is that balance between wanting to get your tight end more involved versus, forcing the issue and not letting it, happen, kind of naturally?
We tried to throw him the ball the other night. I think first third down, we threw it to him and had him open, So I think it's a combination of a couple things. We got to make plays when it comes to him. Sometimes in the read, the ball doesn't go to him, but he's in the progression. I think it kind of marries up with kind of where we are offensively right now. There's some things happening that are good, but there's not any results to show for it. And until we start getting those results, we're not going to be very satisfied with what we're doing. So I would like to think that if we start finishing with more touchdowns, and Will's going to start making more plays, he's a big part of what we're doing. We're not trying to throw him the ball, but I wouldn't overreact to the fact that he had 2 catches and then 3 catches. Because like I said, the ball came his way some other times the other night. Either we didn't make the play or he was covered or he went somewhere else in the read.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Coach, we've got Manny Navarro from The Athletic. Manny, go ahead.
Hey, Rhett. I apologize if I got this wrong because I watched the second half again on tape. I was chasing a cat for that cat story there in the third quarter. So I apologize. But watching the game again, it looked like App State was dropping 8 guys in the coverage a whole lot. And I'm just curious how you sort of gauge De'Eric's performance. He talked about running the ball a lot more, and I know that was probably by design, but just the way he's throwing the football and the way the passing game is operating, what do you see them doing right? What do you think is just not clicking in terms of the passing game?
I think the first couple drives the other night, he missed some throws that he knows he's got to make. He normally does make. Then I think he didn't start off as good as he'd like, but then he settled down and started making a lot of good throws. To your point, yes, they were either dropping 8, especially in the second half. First half, they were blitzing, but they were dropping their corners and their safeties and making us they were keeping everything in front of them. So we were completing a lot of balls, but for 10 yards, 15 yards, nothing very explosive, just because the way they were doing a good job of keeping things in front. And that had a lot to do with why we moved it up and down the field, but then couldn't get in the end zone. In the second half, they still did that, but they mixed in the drop 8, as you pointed out. And so I thought he played better after the first couple drives. And, his completion percentage ended up being a lot better than it started out. I think offensively in the passing game, we've got to be more precise with our routes, with our timing at quarterback and receiver, and try to find some ways to maybe get some easier completions and get us going. We haven't had a lot of opportunities over the top. When we have, the one positive is we've made those plays. Keyshawn made a nice play. Rambo made a nice play, but that was 2 of the few times that they allowed us to get behind them. And so, we weren't very explosive, but we were more efficient after the first few drives.
Thank you.
We got a few more for you. We're going to go to Matt Shodell at Canesport. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, Rhett. Manny sort of touched on this, but brushed over it a little bit. So obviously De'Eric was credited, with the 19 rush attempts. So I was curious if A, you're comfortable with that number for him, and then B, if it was a result of the, you calling it, or defensive pressure that forced him to run, or maybe, like you mentioned, guys maybe not running precise routes, a combination of things. Can you sort of weigh in on that a little bit?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think, probably 3 of them get thrown out because of the end of the game, right? So we say you had 16 then, probably official, real runs. I think probably 4 to 5 were called runs, just off the top of my head. And then probably another 2 to 3 were in some sort of a read option element where he pulled it and kept it. Maybe a few more than that, The reason, we didn't give up a lot of pressure. He had time back there. To Manny's point, they were dropping 8 a lot. And it doesn't matter who you are, what offense you run. It's hard to find a lot of holes in drop 8 defense. And so I think what he did a nice job of was when he dropped back to pass and they matched up 8 on 4 or 8 on 5, he was able to take off, and not only take off, but run downhill and really make some nice plays with his feet when they kind of had everything matched up, just because of the way the coverage was being played. So we kind of know that's the way De'Eric's game is. He's going to get his sometimes when he drops back to pass, and either we do have a pressure and he avoids it, or everybody's covered and he takes off. He's going to make some plays like that every game. And so because of that, you don't have to call as many design runs, but I think he also looked pretty explosive at times running, and which was really good for us.
Coach, we got Kobe Price from the Sun Sentinel. Kobe, go ahead.
Thanks, Cam. Hey, Rhett. Wanted to kind of follow up on the running game questions that you got earlier. How would you evaluate how the offensive line specifically is doing from a run protection standpoint? And I guess what did you see as the difference between, it seemed like in the second half against App State, you guys were doing a little bit better, not just with De'Eric, but also with Cam back there. What did you see as the difference? Was it because they were dropping 8, just the holes were a little easier to get to?
Not as much. I mean, because they did change it up a little bit in the second half, but the up front in the box, the structure was pretty much the same both halves. The first half, there at times we didn't ID things as good as we could have. and cover things up. I think there was one time we had a miscommunication. We turned the nose tackle loose and he hits us in the backfield. I mean, that stuff can't happen. But when we did a good job of getting hats on hats and our backs were able to get on the safeties, it looked like it's supposed to look. So, we got to be more consistent and we got to find a way to finish drives. Fortunately, when we needed the run game, to your point, late in the game and late in the second half, Cam was able to get going. Derek made a few nice runs. And I think that was also probably attributed to Cam was able to get a little bit of a rhythm. He started getting up around 18 carries. And I think he started to kind of get a little bit of a flow.
Coach, we've got David Wilson from the Miami Herald. David, go ahead.
Hey, Rhett. I'm kind of curious. You guys have had, I know a lot of Miami fans have gotten a little frustrated at times with like the second and long runs. And I know it's not as simple with your guys' offense as just like calling a run play. I'm curious, just how well do you guys feel like you guys are reading defenses right now? Like in terms of like Derek pulling the ball when he should be pulling. And obviously when you go back and talk through it with him, you guys are looking for that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a great question because I get it. I come home and my wife or my kids are like, hey, why do you run the ball up the middle on this? And it's not as simple as it sounds. And I totally get the frustration. Trust me, there's nobody more frustrated than me when it doesn't work. And we rarely have a run where there's not some form of a read, whether it be an RPO, a bubble, a hitch, a spot, something else there. And so it's not always as simple as, hey, they just ran it up the middle. In those situations, you expect them to play more of a coverage where the box is lighter to run the football. And in a couple cases the other night, the read told him to hand the ball off, and we just simply didn't block it good enough. We got 5, they got 5, and we didn't win. And we should be able to win 5-on-5 and get the back to the next level. He spits it for 8 or 9 yards. Everybody's going, okay, I get it. We didn't execute that properly. There are a few times, one in particular, he could have pulled the ball for a big play in an RPO and he handed it. And we handed it into a number and we got hit for a no gain. And so, you got to think of it in terms of it's 2nd and 10, 2nd and 25, I think was one of them the other night after the big penalty. They're dropping 8. It's not easy to drop back and throw the ball. But if you get in a situation where you give them a run pass option, where if the box numbers give it to you, you can maybe spit a run for 10 yards, or they come up, you can throw it behind them in more of a run read look. That's the idea. Obviously it didn't work very well the other night.
Thanks, Rhett.
Yep.
One more, Coach. We're going to go to Susan Miller-Degnan at the Herald. Susan, go ahead.
Hey, Rhett.
Hey, Susan.
Hi. Don Chaney's morale, how's he doing now, especially, after just rehabbing and coming back from shoulder surgery, and also the progress of Thad Franklin and Cody Brown?
Yeah, he's doing really well considering. He's really disappointed, as we all are. We just got him back to full contact about a week before the first game with his previous shoulder injury. And he had some nice runs in that game. And then he was really starting to turn it on. I think the other night he had a really nice explosive run. And, we were really looking forward to him starting to get to the form we believe and know he can be at. And it's really disappointing for him. I think he's, you kind of feel sometimes as a player, you can feel like, man, it's one thing after another. And so we're supporting him. We're behind him. He's going to get through this. He's going to be fine. We fully anticipate him to come back better than ever, but it's disappointing for him, but he's got as good a morale as you could ask for. With regards to Cody Brown and Thad Franklin, it's their time. They're next men up. They'll be with us all week. And I think, when you're a freshman running back, everybody thinks it's not just as easily as just running the football. You've got pass protection involved. You got a lot of other things that often take more time than just, hey, I run the football. Run the football is probably the easiest thing they can do. So from that standpoint, we've been working hard with them to try to get them ready because they were kind of in that third role as it was anyways. And I feel like Cody Brown's in a really good place with all of that. And, we got a lot of confidence in him, and I think that will continue to keep coming as well.
Coach, we got time for just one more. We're going to go to Chris Stockett inside the U. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, you've talked a lot about drop coverage facing it last game. I assume that could be a formula maybe moving forward, particularly Michigan State gave up, they got beat over the top in that first game a few times. So I'm sure they're going to try to keep things in front of you. But just passing game, maybe the keys to be effective in the passing game if teams are dropping. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, it's a great question because to your point, if somebody sees something works on you, they're going to do it until you find a way for it not to work. I that was a big part of what App State does, but most people have the ability to do that in some way, shape, or form. The first thing you can do is stay out of those long yardage, second long, third and long passing situations where it allows a defense to do that. When you're on schedule and first and second down ahead of the sticks or third and reasonable medium, it's harder for them to do that, right? Because then you can just kind of hit a little bit underneath throw and move the sticks. So if we can stay out of those situations, the more the better. And I think the second thing is having the ability to hit some underneath stuff, in the little bitty windows that are there when people drop 8. You don't always have to maybe throw it to the sticks or deep into the coverage. That's really the hardest thing to do. So maybe a way to get some easier completions underneath that allow us to catch the ball and run more, if that makes sense.